All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm Susan Murphy. I am the volunteer HeatSmart Melrose coach, and welcome to our presentation on solar hot water. Very excited to have you here and to be doing this, and we're recording it, and I know there were a few people who were interested in seeing it who weren't able to attend this time. So just a brief introduction. HeatSmart Melrose is a program that's run by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center with the State Department of Energy Resources. It's a grant program that the city applied for last fall that's intended to promote clean heating and cooling technologies. So we've been, with a little delay from COVID, we've been promoting air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, and solar hot water since about the end of June. And we're really excited about how the program's going, and we really want to support, particularly in this program, solar hot water, which I think is one of the most exciting opportunities to start green without having to redo your whole heating system if you're not ready to do that. It really is one of the things you can do that's the easiest and the lowest entry point and really can make a big difference. So what we're going to do today is hear from first a homeowner, Lisa Capone-Condon, who had one of, I think, the first solar hot water system in Melrose.
That's what we were told.
Yeah, so she's had it for a couple of years and can really tell us about her experience with it. And she happened to have had it installed by our chosen installer, New England Solar Hot Water, who we will also be hearing from after Lisa. We have John Moore here from New England Solar Hot Water. So New England Solar Hot Water was chosen for the HeatSmart Melrose campaign by the group of volunteers that are working on HeatSmart Melrose through a competitive procurement that was run by the Mass CEC, and there are group discounts as part of this program. So it's a really great opportunity for solar hot water through this program, particularly because some of the incentives that are offered through Mass CEC for installing solar hot water are scheduled to come to an end at the end of 2020. So with that, I will put it over to Lisa, and I'm just going to ask you to start just describing how you came to do solar hot water and what's your experience with it, and then I might ask you a few questions about it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, hi everybody, and yep, John and his company were great to work with. So I was told, and I think it's true, the first home in Melrose that put on solar hot water. And I still really don't see any panels around that they look different than the PV panels, and I have not seen any others in town, although I'm sure there may be some at this point. And I often get people stopping and looking at the house and saying, well, what are those? How come you only have 3 panels? And I think it is still a not well known and understood technology. At the time that we put it in, I had been working for some time at the State Office of Energy Resources and was familiar with the technology. We had, and largely because of working for the State Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, I was very interested in putting solar on our house, and we had it looked at 2 or 3 times by different companies, and everybody told us, the trees, unless you want to take down those big oak trees, which I don't, it just didn't make economic sense to do it. So it was around the same time that the alternative energy credits program was coming on at Mass CEC. And so we looked into doing the solar hot water. We have an oil heated house built in about early 1950s. 3-bedroom colonial, so not a huge house. So we did not really want to redo the whole heating system. What we did at the same time as the solar hot water was we switched over to bioheat. So it's a little bit of a less CO2 imprint there. But with the solar hot water, we have 3 panels on the house, and I'll let John talk about the technology and the water going, fluid going through and all that stuff. But it's actually sized a little bit bigger than what we probably needed. I think John, that you guys recommended maybe 2 panels, but we knew we were soon to be empty nesters, and yet knew that if we sold the house to a family with teenagers or something, or young kids, that we might need more. And so we have 3 panels on the house. It was installed in June of 2018. So going through June of 2019, a full 12 months, we used 100 gallons less of heating oil over the course of, basically the course of the summer. Because what we do is, the last couple of years, we've had a fill up for the oil tank in April, and then we haven't done anything again. They just automatically came, for instance, just this month in October, and they put in 50 gallons. So we really don't use the oil burner at all in the summertime. So that has a couple of co-benefits as well. So it not only during that time, obviously, first of all, the solar is taking care of the hot water. We're not running the heat. And by having the burner off, the basement also stays cooler. So that's, and we do, use the basement so that there's no need to, put any kind of air conditioning or anything down there, because it does heat up the basement when the oil burner pops on, and it's quieter. So that's, that's another, sort of little benefit. This year, so, going forward from June of 2019 to now, where it looks like, I'm just looking at, this kind of what we've used, and it looks like we are on track for, basically exactly the same savings, probably for this year as 100 gallons. So, we've been very happy with it. I mean, there have been, I think, probably fewer than a handful of times when, it's been, a week and a half of rainy weather and we have switched on the oil burner for a day during, the time during the, the warm months. But really, I don't even know if it's been a handful. It really works very well. It doesn't have to be, a bright sunny day. It's as long as there's some sun, it's, it's not like totally gloomy. It seems to gather enough sunlight to do what it needs to do. So we've been very, very happy with it. No complaints really whatsoever. We've had no maintenance issues whatsoever with it either. So out of pocket, the system that we purchased was, I think the total cost of it was little over $12,000. It was the system price. But out of pocket that we're ending up paying for it is about $1,800 because of a combination of various incentives. We've got a Mass CEC rebate, or basically the Mass Save rebate. We've had the sale of the alternative energy credits, and that came as one check that we got that brought the price down. And we also got the federal tax credit was 30%. The Mass tax credit at the time was 15%. I don't know whether that's all the same now or not. So, it's basically, figure out, the payback on it will be about 7 years. We have a 0 interest loan with Metro Credit Union. So it's about as painless as you can get. And the people across the street from me are actually, Susan, putting in as a result of this program, a ground source heat pump. And that's obviously going to be a major project, which is great. And I'm really glad they're doing it. But, we were looking for something that, like you said, was a little bit more, kind of easy to get into. And this certainly is, and it's, the literature that we got from New England Solar Hot Water indicates, how much CO2 savings you have and what that equals in terms of acres of maple and birch forest that, would offset that. So it's, for me, it was really as much about making some sort of a contribution there as the cost savings, but it definitely does, save money as well. So I don't know if that pretty much covered it, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can.
I'll just ask you one. So I just wanted you to describe a little bit the install process, because that is also pretty painless as well, right?
Yeah, it was done in one day. There were some steps beforehand. I think we had to get a building permit, and they came out and took a look at the roof and tried to figure out where they were going to put the panels and how it goes in through our attic when we have a pull down stairs. So that was pretty simple. And I don't think it took them more than, I don't know, John, I might have this wrong if I'm remembering it wrong, but I feel like it was a couple of hours. It didn't take them very long to put it in. And, I would say it was probably, a couple of months between the time we, first decided to do it and went through all the steps. You do have to get a Mass Save audit, clean it, an audit for like you would get for, putting in
that's in order to get the heat loan.
like that. In order to get the heat loan, right. So we did that. That was kind of like the first step. And that, I think we had to probably wait, you know, as I'm remembering, probably a few weeks for them to come out and do that, and then, you know, go through that process with the bank. So, you know, maybe, you know, few months overall to do the whole thing. It took that, we pretty much did it over the course of the spring, and then the installation, and it came online in June.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I
Welcome.
think we'll, unless someone has a burning question for Lisa, we'll have John do his presentation, and then we'll do questions at the end, if that's okay with everybody. I know you can, I think you can unmute yourself if you need to,
Okay.
but all right. All right. So next we're going to hear from John Moore, who's going to tell us more about the technology, show us some sample projects, talk about the incentives that are available right now to offset the cost of this. And I am going to switch over control to him so he can share his screen. And then we'll let John take it from here.
I feel like I don't really need to present after that. Wonderful. I think we're done. But I think the only correction I have to that, what Lisa said, was I'm sure it took more than 2 hours to install. It's usually we arrive at 8, Bruce, our president, and his crew, and out of there by 2 or 3 o'clock. But let's see if I can share here. How's that? Are you seeing my, I can't tell, but are you seeing my first slide?
Good.
Okay, great. All right, so hello everyone. We want to thank Mass CC and the HeatSmart Melrose volunteers and Susan for inviting us. Solar hot water, it's unlike more common solar, electric, or PV, because instead of converting sun's energy to electricity, the solar hot water panels collect heat. So it's an efficient process, and a typical home requires only 2 to 3 panels. So here's a quick slide describing our company. We're local, we're based in Canton, and we're not large, but we've installed over 600 solar hot water systems, large and small, primarily Massachusetts, but also in other New England states. And our owner, I was describing, and President Bruce Dyke is also our engineer and manages every installation on site. So we have licensed plumbers and electricians, and besides solar hot water, we also install heat pump water heaters, electric heat pump water heaters, and solar PV systems. I'm a licensed architect. I'm the primary customer contact for our company, and I conduct all the site assessments and create proposals that include system design and cost benefit analysis. So we've installed more solar hot water systems than any other company in Massachusetts, and here you can see a few examples of residential and commercial systems. And you know, though it's not as popular as solar PV, as Lisa was saying, there's well over 1,000 systems that have been installed over the last 9 years under the Mass CEC's rebate program. So this has been offsetting fossil fuel usage equivalent to over 4 million pounds of CO2 per year, every year. So it's equivalent to eliminating cars burning of gasoline by 200,000 gallons per year. So there's quite a bit of CO2 offset happening with these systems. And we've been happy with the program. I think we're up to 12 or 13 signups now. So Lisa, you should be seeing more solar hot water collectors over the next few months. So here are a few basics. First of all, solar hot water is not a new technology. Today's systems they're not unlike those installed 40 years ago when Jimmy Carter made them popular after installing a system in the White House in 1979. The collector design hasn't changed much. They're still about 80% efficient as they were in 1979. Solar electric panels are only about 20% efficient, which gives you an idea of the relative efficiency. And the solar thermal industry is strong worldwide, especially in Europe and Asia. And the systems are robust. They often we often come across systems that were installed in the 80s when Jimmy Carter made it popular, and they're still operating. So these two little pie charts at the bottom, most owners don't know how much they spend on domestic hot water. And though there's been a lot of work reducing space heating loads, not so much with domestic hot water. So for the average home, domestic hot water might be 23% of energy use. But with super insulated net zero homes where space heating load is low, domestic hot water becomes the largest load, actually, close to 50%. So in the Northeast, where we have less solar radiation in the winter, it makes financial sense to build systems that supply year-round domestic hot water rather than space heating. And this little graph here, because solar energy is 100% renewable and free, solar hot water systems offer the least expensive option to heat hot water. Here's a graph over 20 years of solar versus other fuels. Okay, so looking at how solar hot water works, we're all familiar with these two scenarios. Car dashboard absorbing the sun's radiation, heating up super hot, even in the winter, and the transfer of heat to water in a garden hose that's been sitting in the sun. These are basically the basic principles in a solar hot water system. There are two common types of solar thermal collectors. They both work by absorbing the sun's radiation via an absorber plate, like the car dashboard, and transferring the heat to a fluid in a pipe, like the garden hose. So you can see in these diagrams the large absorber plate in the flat plate collector and the smaller individual absorber plates in each of the evacuated tubes. So flat plate collectors have proven their durability over the past 50 years. Evacuated tubes are a newer design, a bit more expensive, but because of the vacuum tube, they're more efficient in colder weather. Here's a diagram of a typical single tank residential system. Two to three collectors on the roof, piped to an 80-gallon solar storage tank. The line set piping creates a closed loop containing a water glycol mix pumped through the collectors and the heat exchanger in the tank. When the tank is full or hot, or when the sun is not available, the system turns off and the fluid drains into the drain back tank here and here. This non-pressurized drain back design eliminates the possibility of freezing or overheating, which was an issue with older pressurized systems. You can see the controller mounted on the tank and the mixing valve required by code, since the tank is allowed to get hotter than normal in order to store more energy. For periods of less sun, mostly in the wintertime, the system can rely on a conventional backup system, either an integral electric element or by adding a heat exchange loop from an existing boiler like Lisa's system. This acts like any indirect hot water tank. We also install systems that preheat conventional water heaters. So in this case, cold water from the street is routed through the solar tank where it's preheated before delivery to the conventional tank. The conventional tank is thus used only to add heat if necessary, mainly in the wintertime. The photo shows preheat of a conventional gas-fired tank. Any type of water heater can be preheated, including tankless on-demand systems. We specify stainless steel tanks made in Massachusetts. You can see this manufacturer offers off-the-shelf solar-ready tanks in various sizes with options for a second heat exchanger for boiler backup or an electric element for electric backup. Typical residential systems include an 80-gallon tank, which is larger than what people are used to. It's 6 feet tall, 23 inches in diameter. Acts like a battery. The reason it's larger is because it acts like a battery to store energy to get through cloudy days. For line set piping, we use corrugated stainless steel piping that can easily bend and requires no joints or sweating. The piping comes wrapped in a UV-proof insulation, and the roof penetration boots, like the mounting feet, are flashed and leak-proof, as shown here. So when we run the pipes outside the house, we use a common slim duct cover to protect the piping and create a cleaner look. Thanks to the drain back design I was describing, maintenance for solar hot water systems is really minimal. The solar fluid should be checked every 5 to 7 years, and the solar pump is the only moving part and may need to be changed once or twice during the 20+ year life of the system. A new pump is inexpensive and can be installed by any plumber. Manufacturer warranties are strong and the other system components are robust, all built to last 20 to 25 years without need of replacement. Okay, so sometimes I think the finances are more complicated than the system is. Currently, incentives are generous, very generous, but they're a moving target. In general, the trend in Massachusetts is to encourage this technology. Currently, there are 2 cash incentives, the alternative energy certificates, and the Mass CEC rebate, and 2 tax credits, the federal and the Massachusetts tax credits. The federal solar credit is to be reduced next year to 22%, but it could be reinstated to the original 30% depending on the elections this fall. The Mass CEC rebate will end this year, but if someone signs up this year, they'll receive the rebate through next year for an installation next year. So they'll reserve the funds for you for up to 1 year after you sign up. Mass Save also offers a 0% interest heat loan for solar hot water. So this has been a very successful program for encouraging solar hot water. Here are numbers for a typical home, family of 4 with an existing gas-fired water heater. So this is the slowest payback of any installation. If you have oil, electric, or propane, it's much faster. But this is an example with gas-fired water heater. The solar system has electric backup, so it replaces the existing fossil fuel gas-fired tank. So system price of about $9,000 is reduced by all those incentives I mentioned for a net cost of about $3,000. Note the CO2 savings for this little system with 3 collectors is equivalent to the CO2 absorbed by a 1.5 acre forest. The Mass CEC offers a higher rebate to encourage installations for low and moderate income families. So this same example system has a net cost of only about $1,000 for a family of 4 with income below $95,000. This rebate program has been very successful as the Mass CEC database of systems installed includes a large number of systems for moderate income families living in both single family homes and multifamily facilities. Because of economy of scale, small multifamily homes are really good candidates for solar hot water. We've done a bunch of these. In this example, for a 2-family investment property, the net cost is actually less than for a typical single family home, even with an extra collector and a bigger tank. This is due to the increased incentives for the larger system, as well as an additional bonus depreciation benefit for investor owners. CO2 savings is also much greater due to the larger system here, over 2 acre forest equivalent. Now this is kind of, I'm not going to go through every number on this table, but here with electrification of homes now being emphasized, what are the options for electric water heating? Here's a chart comparing the high quality, simple electric resistance water heater. This is a Marathon lifetime electric resistance water heater with solar hot water and an electric heat pump water heater. The top section shows costs and net costs. The middle section compares major operational factors, including energy savings and efficiency and system life. And the bottom section compares other important operational and installation factors. Green cells indicate a really good solution, red cells indicate possible issues. Even the best electric resistance water heater has a low installation cost, only $1,700 or so, but the efficiency is very low and the cost of operation is very high, given our electric rates in Massachusetts. So the net cost for solar hot water versus a heat pump water heater is about the same after tax credits and incentives. So this is a moving target, as I say, so all incentives are up for change in 2021. But you can see that an appropriately sized solar hot water system will save significantly more energy and CO2 emissions with 80% savings as opposed to 50% of your existing bill or none in electric resistance, as well as offering robust, longer lasting hardware, including a stainless steel tank. The heat pump has the disadvantage of shorter tank warranty, fan noise, cooling the surrounding room in the wintertime, but the installation is much simpler than for a solar hot water system. As I mentioned, solar hot water collectors are extremely efficient and thus require a smaller roof area than typical solar PV arrays. Also, because orientation is somewhat flexible, most homes have a good location available for the collectors. With just 2 to 3 collectors necessary, they can also be mounted on walls in an awning style, or like this, or on flat or north-facing roofs with angled frames. Note, an awning configuration can be located to provide an additional advantage by shading summer sun, but allowing winter sun to hit the window below. The frames are supplied by the collector manufacturer and designed to withstand high wind loads without a problem. Many owners with existing solar PV add solar hot water systems to further reduce their carbon footprint. Enlarging a PV system is usually problematic for various reasons, and even if it's possible, a larger roof area would be required for equivalent energy production with PV panels. So adding solar hot water collectors can make sense. Here's some examples for 2 to 4 family properties. The site in Cambridge is a condominium with a common hot water system. And note this system on the garage. The main roof was taken up with PV. So here the line set piping was installed in a trench to the main house where the solar tanks are located. If there's no common hot water system, the system can be designed to preheat 2 or 3 separate existing hot water tanks and reduce everyone's CO2 emissions. Other examples, a pool facility in Sudbury, another condo project in Cambridge. This is a dorm in Harvard where collectors were integrated into existing skylight roofs, and this is a large catering operation with awning mount evacuated tube collectors. Large systems work on the same principle as smaller systems. All the components are just sized up, more collectors, larger storage tanks. They're often custom built, these tanks as shown here. This array is interesting. This is part of a system for UMass Amherst, which actually serves their central steam plant. So because our work is mostly isolated on roofs and in basements, we're able to install systems these days during this pandemic with our crew following these COVID protocols. And this is the last slide. It's just a sampling of notes from system owners. Generally, customers are very happy with their systems. They get pleasure from hot water provided thanks to free renewable energy. A lot of times, since we are plumbers, when we're on site, we'll do some repairs to other parts of the plumbing system that have nothing to do with solar. So we try to really emphasize customer service and keep people happy. Here's our contact information. We also have a page on our website dedicated to HeatSmart Melrose. Remember that HeatSmart pricing and the MassCC rebate end this year. So if you're interested, it's best to sign up this year, even if the installation occurs next year. So that's all I've got. I guess I should stop the share and make Susan the host.
Switching back control to me.
I'm trying.
Perfect, it worked.
Okay, hope that's okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, John. That was great. Does any of the members of the audience have any questions you want to ask of either Lisa or John? I think you can unmute yourself. If that's not the case, you can flag me or let me know. June, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, so an independent garage roof works too?
Yeah, if it gets sun, the only issue is trenching to the main house. So,
Right.
you know, usually a landscape contractor can do that depending on what's between the garage and the house.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? I have a question for you, John. Is there any monitoring of these systems, or do you know how it's working? Or...
Oh yeah, you know, I think one of my slides was missing there.
Ah.
Yep. One of my slides was, oh, I skipped one. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah, the controller mounted on the tank that I showed. You can also get an add-on unit. It's a little round data logger that's connected to the internet, and it will take all the information from the system and post it on the internet. You can look at it live, a live system diagram showing what's happening, or graphs showing the historical performance of the system. So that is offered, and there's a nice rebate for that. The Mass EC encourages monitoring, so not very expensive, a couple $100.
Okay, and then we have a
question.
Go ahead, June.
It seemed to me as I was listening to you, John, that it requires the purchase of a water tank. Your existing water tank wouldn't do.
Yeah, well, sometimes we can preheat an existing tank if it's new, and if there's room for 2 tanks. We usually wouldn't do it if it's propane or oil. We like to encourage people to go to electric backup. So a solar tank with electric backup. But if you have a very efficient new gas-fired tank, we could put in a solar system and preheat that so that it didn't go on much.
We have what I think is called a superstore.
You do, yeah. Connected to your boiler?
No.
Oh, no, okay. So are you oil or gas?
Gas.
Gas, okay. Yeah, so that's a really nice tank. Those are the same tanks that we use. That's the same company, HTP. So if it's in really good shape, you could save some money by leaving that in place, and we'll put another tank next to it if there's room.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't room, we'd have to replace it.
It would be at this 8-foot tall tank?
6 feet, yeah, 6 feet. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Depending on the people in your house, you have a large household or?
Well, the house is fairly large, but there's just the 2 of us.
Oh, I see, yeah. So you'd want to plan for the house for future.
Yes, right.
It's going to be there a while, yeah. So yeah, 6 foot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
I'm going to ask one more question. If you have limited headroom in the basement, are there options or?
Oh yeah, sure. In fact, the system we just installed in Melrose, I think you might have posted it for Guinevision. That was a 10-person household. It's kind of a multi-family. He had 5 feet of headspace, I think. So we ended up putting 2 smaller tanks and just piped them as one. So we had 2 60-gallon tanks piped as one tank. And they're only 50 inches tall or something, and just a little over 4 feet. So we can string those together if there's an issue with head height.
Okay. That's not the issue, it's tools.
It's tools.
Yes.
Oh, moving them? Yeah.
I don't know.
That's another thing our guys, every installation we devote the whole day. So our crew is used to moving things before they get started. So customers put them to work doing all kinds of things. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a question in the chat, but I think it was answered by that exchange. So anybody else? All right, I think that does it. I just want to, for those of you on, I don't know how many of you have signed up through HeatSmart, but the HeatSmart program itself is coming to a close. We're accepting signups through November 15th. But the Solar Hot Water also has this hard deadline of the end of the year for signing on for a contract in order to get the Mass CEC rebate. So it's definitely the time to do it if you have an interest in it. And thank you very much. And certainly, email us with any follow-up questions. Jim, did you have a question? You unmuted yourself?
Yes, if you could just, you said something about November 15th?
Yeah, that's the HeatSmart Melrose is a limited time program. So we're accepting signups through November 15th for people to sign up to get a site assessment. They'll still have additional time to sign the contract, but we're gonna stop accepting new people into the program to get site assessments November 15th.
And how do you sign up?
You can sign up on the website. If you tell me, I will put you in our database right now if you want. But the website is heatsmartmelrose.org, which has a sign up sheet on it, or I can email it to you, or I can put you on the list if you want, if you're interested.
You can put me on the list. I'm interested. Yes.
All right, absolutely.
Are you doing will you be doing something on geothermal heat?
Right now, we hadn't scheduled specifically a session, but we were going to see how this one went and see if we thought there was enough interest in people seeing these individual presentations. So if you're interested in that, I will keep that in mind, and I can talk to Larry Lassard, who's the installer, and see when we could schedule one.
And don't you have a video posted on your website on all the technologies?
Yeah, we did do Meet the Installer event, and so all of the installers did do a presentation, so that's available on our website, so you can see that. I can send you a link to it.
Wonderful.
And we also had a kickoff session way back in the spring, and we had, Lisa was there, and we also had residents of Melrose who have air source heat pump and ground source heat pump systems already installed. This was before we selected the installer, so but we had someone who talked about his experience getting a ground source heat pump installed. So that might be something you might want to look at too, so I can send you the links to those.
Thank you.
You know someone going through a ground source heat pump installation, don't you, Susan?
Ground source heat pump.
Is the truck still there?
The drill is gone,
Okay.
but there's still a lot of excavation work yet to be done. And nice, and I'm also going to do the solar hot water, and they were kind enough, since the ground source heat pump, when that gets installed, it would eliminate our hot water. So even though I'm still in the waiting list to get the solar, they brought the tank in yesterday, I guess, working around the big drill and stuff, just so that I won't have a gap in my hot water. So yeah, so everyone's working together to make this work, but very exciting. All right, will that do it? Well, thank you very much for everybody, and thank you, Lisa and John, for your very informative presentations, and we appreciate it. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Great, thank you. Happy to do it.
Great afternoon.
Good luck.